G'day guys, Josh here from Aussie Fly Fisher. What I wanted to show you today was some of the fly lines and leader setups that we use for Murray Cod. It's our largest freshwater fish in Australia. Grow to 100, 150 pounds, even folklore would suggest 250 pounds. That's a big fish and we're throwing big flies at them. These are probably more small to medium options compared to some of the larger flies we throw, but even that is a big fly to throw on average. To do that, you want the right fly line to make that easy. So we're using lines in the Titan series. Titan series lines are great. They've got a short, powerful head, helps turn over those flies with ease, and just reduces the amount of false casts you need to do. That heavy head loads up, you can plonk that cast out and place a lot of casts without too much effort. Definitely when throwing big flies, you want the right fly line, otherwise it's going to be frustrating. So I guess if I split that into two categories, typically we're going to have warm water and cold water. For us, December through to April, most likely I'm going to throw around something with a tropical base line. In this case here, the line that I use the most for all of our Murray Cod fishing is the tropical clear tip and the Sona Titan. It's got a 15-foot clear tip on the end of this one, which is the intermediate part, and we also have a floating running line. So FI lines are really handy when it comes to just a lot of applications. They sink quite slow at the tip, so you can still throw surface flies. I do most of my surface fishing still with this line. If I'm going to be doing a lot of surface fishing, throwing poppers during the night or just wanting that popper to hang there for a long time in the water, that's when I might choose a floating line. The tropical Titan there. Also, if the water I'm fishing is a little bit shallower, I'm doing more sight fishing or that type of thing, that's probably going to be more of my go-to. Definitely both of those lines are great choices. If I needed to buy one, I normally go for the FI, the floating intermediate. Once we get to this time of year, it starts to get pretty cold. And in the winter, that's quite often when the really big fish will come out. It's a grind, it's a lot of casting, but if you want to catch that excessive Murray Cod, this is the time to do it. And so from here on, I'm going to be fishing something that's going to be more suited to those temperate climates. It's going to handle those colder mornings, colder evenings better. In this case, just the Mastery Freshwater Titan. Good line there. So that's my floating option. And if I want to have a sink tip, the Titan sink tip there. Once again, just check that out. Make sure, is it suitable for tropical or is it suitable for those colder temperatures? Obviously, our Murray Cod, they're actually in the lower half of Australia, and we wouldn't quite call that tropical, but in the summer, we're fishing in gorges that get really, really hot, and so having that tropical line is going to be better suited for the purpose. If I want to fish really deep, particularly in some of the lakes in the middle of the day or a bigger pool in the river, I'm going to choose something that's more suited. It's going to sink faster. These triple density lines from SA are awesome lines. This one's a sink 3, sink 5, sink 7. I also really like the Hover 2-4. Depends on the lake I'm fishing, but a great line to have, particularly for the middle of the day. Or if you're fishing those banks that are around that kind of 3 to 5 meters deep, in the winter, that's where a lot of the Murray Cod will be hanging. Really good to check out those triple density lines. Sinking lines are always good to have in your backpack. Keep that handy. In terms of the leader, I guess if I was fishing a sinking line, quite often I just do a very simple straight leader, whether it's 40, 30, 20 pounds, just a straight leader with a perfection loop and tie my fly on the end. Any of these other options, I tend to fish a twisted leader. So in this case here, got one set up. It's around, let's say, 5 foot, 6 foot long. For me, 4 to 7.5 foot is fine for Murray Cod. They're not leader shy. The reason I really like the twisted leader, as you look down here, there's no knot where it joins the loop of the fly line. And so I can pull that all the way into the rod tip if a fish happens to be following, as they often do, right to the bank. And if something eats, I can still do a very effective strip strike and not have that knot hinging right through the guides of the rod. At the end there, obviously that continues onto a single piece of line. I've tied a loop knot to the fly. I'll quickly show you that knot there, or that leader set up. So let's say I pull that off. I've shown this from Rod Harrison, who's an Australian legend of fly fishing. Let's say I'm just going to break it into thirds. The top 2 thirds I'm going to coil over there. And this top bit, Hopefully my hands can do this right now. I'm just going to twist that. Quite simply, I'm trying to keep that separated down here so I don't get too much twisting going on. Just using my 2 fingers to twist that up. Once I get to the point that I feel like I've got enough twisted part of the leader, I'm just going to tie 2 overhand knots very simply, like that. Pull that tight. And my short tag there, I'm going to cut that off. So I've got the twisted part of the leader, no knot at the business end there, and then that continues on down to the end, and that's where I'm going to attach my fly. I'll always tie a loop knot with Murray Cod, just like to give those big flies lots of movement. In this case, I've just gone 2 overhands there. I'm going to create a figure 8. There's definitely better resources if you just look up online on how to tie knots. I believe this one's called the Improved Homer Rhodes. It was shown to me by the guys in the Seychelles. Really good knot that I particularly like, probably when I'm using anything over 30 pound. This is the loop knot I like to use, but a lefty's loop or anything like that is fine. Just going to pull that down. I'm going to create another 2 loops there. As I say, I am doing this not quite quick because I'm not too well set up to show you the intricacies of it. So that's just going to pull down on that. So I've got my loop knot there. As with most of my flies, Murray Cod, I am going to tie a loop knot. So there, I mean, I could fish that and that's fine. That's barely 5 foot. Really good setup for Murray Cod. On average, I probably fish 30 or 40 pound. I might fish a little bit lighter if it's really clear water and we're sight fishing for them. And I might fish a bit heavier if I'm in some heavy structure and it's night fishing and I just, need to have everything on my side. Some people like to fish light, but Murray Cod have a really rough mouth, and so I just prefer to fish something that's going to land them. And as I say, they're not leader shy. I don't feel like any greater sportsman land them on any lighter. I'd rather not lose the fish with a fly in the mouth. So for me, 30 or 40 pounds are a really good go-to sort of start in, and yeah, give it a go. Awesome fish, Murray Cod.